Oh my goodness. Yeah, well, it's all good stuff though. It sounds like it's going well. So good for you. Congratulations.
Exciting times.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
That's what you tell yourself.
Exciting times.
Right.
That's right. Enjoy the ride.
Deadlines, crunch, getting them open, getting all these things going.
Enjoy the ride.
Yeah, enjoy the ride. Is that what they say? Okay.
That's what I say.
I'll take that advice. Your sage wisdom.
Yeah.
Those decades you have on me.
100%. Sometimes you just got to. Sometimes you got to look around and go. See,
I snuck that in really. Yeah. Wise beyond your years, LG007 for sure.
That means I'm really in trouble.
Yes, if you hear that music, that can only mean one thing. The shenanigans are starting.
We are up and running.
Starting early, we are up and running. That's right. You have reached the right destination. Don't turn that dial. That's what it used to say. Don't turn that dial. Don't swipe away.
Right.
You got to modernize it, right? Don't swipe away. Don't haptic touch away from it. You're at the right place. You're at the right destination. If you're looking to grow your business, well, you're in the right place because this happens to be the Grow Business Podcast. I'm your host for today's show, Cory Mosley. And I'm joined. Last week you were indomitable. You were abdominal. You're abdominal. You were an I word. Joining me is the guest co-host, or the co-host, the co-host that you know and love. LG007 is in the building. Voice of Reason.
It's good to be
also known as the Voice of Reason. Why? I don't know. I think I'm very rational, but I don't know. We'll see.
I maintain a calm demeanor.
Yeah, you bring it home,
right?
Especially when I get fired up.
Oh, when you turn the volume up.
Well, it's usually something happens, like something just dumb. Like
5 minutes ago.
Yeah, something somebody did was dumb or something. Right. Well, because you're in that reality, right? You're literally we're in this business climate.
Right. You're walking in the studio right
I'm getting a stupid email, or I'm seeing something that doesn't make sense, or I'm having an experience at a store or a retail location or something like that that just doesn't make sense.
Right.
You can't even get your Google My Business listing correct. Like you still got your closed pop-up because it was a snow day a few weeks ago and no one took it down.
Right.
So it still says we're closed.
Right.
That's just dumb. I beat him to it. But the man that will be pushing the buttons, none other than Willie H is here with us.
Hit the buttons, William.
That's right. Yeah, it's just, like, oh, Cory, nobody's perfect. No, I'm not perfect. We sent a meeting notice out. It had the wrong time on it.
Right.
Okay. That's that. But that happens. Yeah.
Right.
Not we're closed.
For a week.
Yeah. For a week.
Right.
That just doesn't make any sense because no one's paying attention.
Right.
Oh, I wonder why. Now you're getting phone calls. Well, what I love is when you tell somebody, we had a client that had the wrong address, and this client, actually, LG. Client that had the wrong address on their LinkedIn profile.
Okay.
Like your LinkedIn profile. People go to it. Looking for you.
They use that as a resource.
Well, to look for your address. They had the wrong address. They had moved. 8 months ago. Okay. 9 months ago. Had the wrong address. We told them like 3 times. We sent at least 3 emails over 90 days.
Right.
And they, like 4 months later, finally got a chance to update it.
Like, oh, by the way.
Sad.
No opportunities could have been missed. And not even the missed opportunities. It's how does it make you look from a competency level? Particularly if you want to say you're the leader in XYZ.
Right.
Like, how does that make you look?
Yes.
I'm starving, by the way. I just hit this. I'm on this. It's not a diet, but I'm eating less food.
Okay.
And my body's telling me that bad.
Yeah.
Right now. It just hit. It just hit me right now that I'm like, I'm hungry. We need to get to these bullet points.
Yeah, we do.
Because Daddy needs a meal.
Well, I will say
and
this.
It's hot in here, Willie. What is going on?
Well, it's hotter because you're hungry too.
Yeah,
right?
Is that it?
Yeah, a little bit. But I think...
Willie, can I turn the air on from here? Or is that going to disrupt our recording? I'll use the app. No, I got it. I got it. Because then I can make it what I want it to be. I just didn't want to. I shouldn't interrupt anything with HVAC voice.
Oh yeah.
But I assume it's better for you folks to hear the air conditioning and me be cool, calm, and collected than it is for me to be hot and mad.
Well, it's better for you to be cool, calm, and collected regardless.
That's generally the consensus. Is Willie H will tell everybody.
That's right.
Oh man, so LG was getting on my case because we were setting up.
I wouldn't get on your case.
No, but you made a great observation, which signifies that you know my personality. You know my personality. And when when LG came on set, my laptop. For you, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see what I'm doing. My laptop was down like that,
mostly closed,
and that could have been a million different reasons why that was. But LG didn't miss an opportunity to say, "Is that laptop closed so I won't see what the topic was?" And you know what? He was 85% right. I want to preserve battery life because I'm not hooked up here. But yes, that was partially it. I did not want you wandering, toodalooing by and taking a peeky poo at what we were getting ready to do.
Peeky poo.
So as always, the Grow Business Podcast is based around the fundamentals of the 5 pillars of business growth, which are mindset, sales, marketing, operations, and people. That's found, of course, in Position for Growth, my latest book. I encourage you to check it out on Amazon.com or head over to CoryMosley.com to get yourself a signed copy. If you want the signed copy, I would do that now because we just got an order. I'm doing an event.
Right.
And we've got, I think it's like a 250 book order.
Congratulations.
And that's probably going to, thank you, that will clear out I'd rather have 250 sales at full retail.
Correct.
But I'll take them at speaking wholesale prices, right? That's a whole other thing. But thank you for the order. I'm saying all to say that will probably deplete what we physically have in our office.
Right.
So I don't want anybody ordering a book, looking for the signature, and get redirected to Amazon, right? Because we won't have any. So encourage you to do that. But in keeping with that, we're picking a new pillar today.
Okay.
We did operations.
Yes.
And then we did mindset, the 2-parter on that. So what do you think we're talking about today?
So for clarity, we've narrowed it down to 3. We've narrowed it down to sales.
Yep. Assuming I don't double up, which we did in the beginning. We did mindset twice, or 2-parter. But go ahead.
So I'm going to operate.
I love your deductive
with
reasoning.
the expectation that it's one of these 3: sales, marketing, and people.
Okay.
And I'm going to take a swing at people.
Yeah. See, you're. This is the second one you've got right, and you had a tough losing streak previous. So yes, today we are talking about the people. Is that what it is? Okay. Yes, we are talking about the people topic today. Give that man a drum or something. That's why you are the best. Yeah, there you go. That's why you are the best. Yes, we're talking about that specifically. We talk about the people pillar specifically. We want to talk about, as we're in 2025, we want to talk about employee engagement.
Yeah. Okay.
And what are some tools, tactics, and things to be thinking about if you're working with employees? And I always say, when we say employees, many times your team doesn't have to be defined. Your team isn't necessarily employees in the traditional sense of the word.
Right.
Meaning they're W-2, they're on payroll in the traditional sense. Right. Many people operate with big teams that are freelance teams or outsourced, like we talked about, that work with gig workers and freelance that make up, right? Now you've got your fractional marketing person, you've got your accounting person, you've got admin people that now strategically, telecommute and do these types of things.
Right.
And come together to make your business run.
Right.
So you can apply some of the same principles. I mean, even we saw this particularly during COVID where people were shipping out like kits. So normally, okay, great. This corporation would normally have the get together at the bowling alley. Well, we couldn't do that at that time, but they shipped out a kit to play, Scrabble at home, like on Zoom or those kinds of things.
What was the thing that we did? You hosted one time.
Yeah, we did Family Feud.
Yes, that's what it was. Yeah, stuff like that.
People are still, what is amazing to me, of all the things that happened on COVID. Willie H., were you on that? You weren't on that. People are still talking about that.
Yeah.
And people are still connected who met for the first time, like we're just friends of mine that all came together. Yeah. That are people who are still talking.
Oh, wow. Okay.
5 years later or whatever it was that are like friendships. I know some people that talk every day.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm not going to say names. I don't mess with anybody's program. But I know some people that met on Family Feud, did not know each other, met each other through there, playing it with us. and talk weekly and even daily, become great friends.
Oh, fantastic.
So I find that so interesting.
Yeah.
But yes, so you can find ways to do that and keep people engaged, even if they're part of your team, employee, whatever word you like to use. If you rely on them as part of making your business work, then they're part of that team. If they weren't there tomorrow, you notice the difference. I don't care what their tax classification is.
Well, regardless of how you're paying them, if you're paying them from the inside out, they're part of your team.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, make no mistake, if Willie H wasn't here right now, we'd have a problem.
Yes.
Hitting the buttons.
Yes.
I guess you'd have to learn how to do it. Hit the buttons, LG.
We definitely have a problem.
It doesn't matter how cold it is in the studio. Willie H will get he'll get some beads of sweat the closer I get to the production station. The closer I get to his desk, the closer I get there, particularly if he's doing something else in the studio.
Oh, yeah.
The more the beads of sweat. It could be 12 degrees negative blizzard here. He'll start beating up because he doesn't know what I'm getting ready to hit or undo. And I just see all the colors. Oh, the colors.
You look like a kid with Play-Doh.
Yes, like that's a color kaleidoscope, a cornucopia of veritable delights.
Oh, my goodness.
All right, so we're talking about that. So, okay, great. So when we say employee engagement, what are we talking about, right? First, the emotional and psychological commitment employees have toward their work and company.
Yes.
Definition of that, right?
Okay.
Why does it matter? Well, engaged employees are more productive.
Yes.
Innovative.
Yes.
Loyal, which of course reduces turnover and boosts profitability.
Yes.
This is important, particularly if they're not full-time employees.
Yes.
Because a freelancer can wake up and just tell you, adios amigos.
Right.
And that's the person that's in charge of your whole social media plan or whatever. So keeping them engaged and having that factor and paying attention to that is very important. You don't get to skip over that just because they are, a freelancer or a contractor or something along those lines.
Especially if you want them to continue to be a part of your team.
Correct. I mean, And I used to run several teams for a couple of the Fortune 100s in automotive, and they were all contractors.
Yeah.
But we still had to bring them together. I brought an improv. We did.
Fun.
We brought an improv group.
Yeah.
To rent in a hotel, room, and they did like team building that way. Some improv and Ben and Jerry's. We got some pictures. Get everybody with the ice cream. Nothing brings people together like ice cream. But shout out to Pecan Jack's Ice Creamery and Candy Kitchen.
100%. We were just talking about that.
Yeah, if you're listening, you're looking for a great franchise, head over to pecanjacksfranchise.com and learn more about one of the fastest growing ice cream and sweets brands in the country. Stores opening all over the country, and one's coming near you.
There you go.
That unsolicited plug.
No, solicited.
Yeah. That's right.
Own it.
That's right. I love it. So yeah, that's why it matters. And then ultimately, really starting to understand value. And I find this is not only generational, but just kind of reflective of the times that we're living in now, where there's a greater value on purpose, flexibility, growth opportunities, and not just or equal to financial compensation.
Right.
It used to just be this idea, pay me, you can do whatever you want. You can say whatever you want, you can do whatever you want, as long as I'm getting paid. And that's not really, even if we say down economy or job rate or it's tight out there or whatever these things are, people will still, hold out for something that, they may find more valuable. And what's important here, and I want you to come in on this, is just like everything.
Right.
The pendulum swings.
Yes.
So far right, far right, I have all these demands and I'm not going to do this and this. And then, far left is really just this idea that I'm not here for the fluffy stuff, Cory. I'm just going to pay you and you're going to do your job and that's going to be our relationship.
Right.
So there's a middle ground to what that's all supposed to look like. Well,
and each individual has things that they're willing to exchange. And some are willing to exchange time off for more money. Some are willing to exchange more time off for less money. Some are willing to exchange, a little bit of money for engagement. Some are willing to exchange the work environment, whether it's RTO or partial hybrid or whatever you want to talk about.
Right.
So there's what you have to find in the people the business owners that we're talking to and the leaders that we're talking to is what you want to do is you want to create an environment where the people want to work.
Right.
want to be there and be a part of your team, and they make that decision every day.
Yeah. Voice of reason. There you go. That's why we call them that right there. Earn your keep.
That's right.
Earn your keep, LG.
Right.
Be the voice of reason. I'm just gonna make comments and I'm gonna say, and now a word from the voice of reason, right? I'm gonna tee you up. You up. All right. So let's talk about, I feel like Bill Maher here, new rules.
Okay.
As you talk about new rules.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some things relative to employee engagement that I think are interesting. Let's look. Rule number 1, right? Prioritizing purpose over paychecks.
Okay.
So this is the idea that employees want, to feel their work contributes to something meaningful.
Right.
Right. And for a lot of people, I find finding those ways, like what you and I think are huge things or are not huge things, could mean the world to somebody else.
Right.
So I think a lot of people, it's very easy to be excited if you're in external worlds. And what I mean by that is if you're, creative.
Right.
So like Grow Business Podcast, that graphic.
Right.
My wife created that.
Oh, fantastic.
So shout out to her. But so she gets to see her work every week.
Right.
With every share, every piece of social media, she gets to see her work. Like extra. I mean, Willie H., we've done almost 300 interviews in our studio. So he gets to see that work. But there are unsung people, right, who don't necessarily get to see or get to externalize or like go, I did that or I created that or that type of thing. So I think, it can be important to figure out ways for the non-obvious scenarios, right? The bookkeeper, didn't, they're doing their job, they're balancing the numbers. That doesn't show externally. Right. The third assistant on the movie. Right. I find it interesting how people get excited when they see their name, but like it's way later. Like everybody's left the theater. Right. And then like Gail Jones comes up, fourth grip on the one location that one time. But their name's there. Right. Like that's big, really just laughing. But that's big. Like I've heard parents like, oh, our son's a key grip on Landman. Right. And if you wait, you gotta wait all the way to the end. Right. They've already gone to the next episode, but if you stop where it wants to go to the next episode and you wait, you see it through, you'll see Josh's name there. Oh yeah. And that's huge. Well, it's a form of recognition. Yeah. And validation is 100% what that is. So I think, looking for ways where can things be meaningful? Sometimes the little things go a long way. Also, highlighting the company's mission and also how the individual roles connect to it. Interesting. Okay. Because I look at this as trying to have what I would call something for everybody. Right. So, because you say something like that, and then you're like, oh, Cory, that's woo-woo. Who really cares? Right. But let me tell you, the same way you get a cult brand. Right. The same elements that go into a cult brand. Right. The same elements that will make people fight each other over a sports team. Right. That they have nothing to do with, don't make a dime from. Right. Hold on, Buckaroo. Yeah. Right. The same way someone will defend a sports player or an actor or somebody is the same psychological sauce. Right. You want the run in the middle of traffic kind of team. Right. That can put the extra hours that aren't, going. I have never heard in 2 years Willie H. say, I mean, unless it was a hard and fast thing, right? Or unless it was a mission critical thing. But you know that ahead of time. Yeah, correct. I've never heard, it's 6:01. Right. And I only get paid to be here till 6. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Right. So I think but that only comes if people feel valued or in that process. Like, that's the responsibility. Right. I was saying, people remember how you made them feel, and that feeling's contagious. Correct. Sure. And people want to feel good. Sure. So if you can make them feel good about being in your organization
if you can make them feel good about being a part of something, like you talk about, what is the mission of the organization? How are they contributing to the success of the organization? What is their impact in the greater good?
Right.
They're going to be more interested in creating more. They're going to be more interested in doing more.
Yep.
And they're going to be invested not only in the company, but they're going to be invested in the other people in the company. And they're going to want to lift each other up as well.
Right. Right. And, I think like also this idea of encouraging employees, team members to participate in initiatives that align also with their values.
Right.
So being supportive. So it's like I'll see a company. Okay, great. Our company loves Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Okay.
And as a company, right? I'm making that decision as a business owner that's a company thing. But LG, what are you individually? What are some things that are valuable to you? Right. What are some organizations or some of these types of things? We've got a client who will build ramps. For people.
Yeah.
Like almost Habitat for Humanity style.
Right.
Like Saturday, we're going to build a ramp for Miss Becky at her house.
Right.
I haven't been there. That's not personal.
Right.
You don't want me slanging hammers and nails and working with hacksaws. So you got something else in my wheelhouse. I'm your guy. Right, volunteer to MC the fundraiser.
100%. I'll make you money so you can pay for the ramp.
Right, exactly. But I think all too often it's also, hey, the company's sponsoring this. Aren't we great?
Right.
And I'm doing this great thing because the company we give to these 12 organizations.
Right.
Are any of those 12 organizations have anything to do with the employee?
Right.
On my entrepreneurship podcast that I did for years, Fearless Entrepreneurship Podcast, FES, I would end with a trivia. I was guest driven versus this. And let me just do a FYI for people.
Yeah.
If you send me an email, like it's not a guest driven show right now. This is a peeve of mine because we get these emails pitching guests.
Right.
Oh, great. Love hearing you and Lon's point about XYZ, insert whatever, whatever it is. If you actually listen to the show, you would not send me an email about why you would make a great guest because we don't have a guest. So like you can't. And even if I was to consider, and sometimes we have fill-in.
Right.
Some people, if you're off doing something or whatever, we have some fill-in. We've had a few fill-in guest hosts, not guests on the show.
Right.
But like at best, you better be in the Richmond, Virginia market area.
Right.
Like you sending me from Jackson Hole, Wyoming, that you make a great guest, telling me how much you love the show tells me you don't know.
Right. Means you're not listening.
Now, I forgot completely what I was talking about in the meantime, so bring me back up to speed.
Well, what you were talking about is finding the right balance between the company's decision to contribute to nonprofits or to outside organizations.
Here's all the great things that we do.
Right.
But do they connect with the employee? Oh,
no.
Okay.
Well,
hold on. I got it.
Do they connect with the employees?
No, I got to get it.
Okay.
Because I was talking about the podcast.
Right.
So we would do the trivia question at the end of the podcast.
Okay.
And I would say, if you get it right, you just get it right.
Right.
If you get it right, I will donate. It was $25.
Okay.
To the charity of their choice.
Right.
So now I could have just said, my favorite charity is Donors Choose,
right.
Where we can fund projects for underfunded schools, which is a longtime charity that I've been fond of. And I could have just said, I'm going to give $25 to them,
right.
And that would have been great. But to me, I thought personalizing it, right? Because now we're doing it on behalf of. So, one person had picked like a women's shelter, a battered women's shelter. I wouldn't have survived to thrive, I think it's called.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought about that.
Right.
Because that's not in my immediate ecosystem.
Correct.
So now it was a way on behalf of that person, here's this donation on behalf of them thinking about your charity. Right. That to me is more powerful and more memorable also.
Right.
And I think that still that applies also within this, within the employee, employer, or team business environment.
Yes. And you can do both. You can have a corporate charity.
You can have it all.
Well, you can't have it all, but you can have a corporate charity.
Right.
And then you can pick whether it's once a quarter
correct, sure,
or twice a year. You can ask for input from the people on your team.
That's right.
Say, okay, this is our corporate, this is our signature.
Correct.
But we also want to contribute to the impact that you want to make.
That's right.
And you figure out a way to either draw or identify or have somebody submit an entry and then get them involved because they're the one most closely connected to that organization.
Right.
Get them involved in the way you support it. Whether it's financial, you know, I talked about, I was in Rotary for a long time. I talked about you have to have the right combination of donors and doers.
Right.
You have to have people that'll pay for it. And you have to have people that are willing to do it with the money that is available.
Right.
So you get the people on your team involved. And then that, again, another team environment, we're talking about engagement. They're selling it to their team members. And if you've got a good team, the team members want to support them because they know when it's their turn, they're going to want that person to support the next charity or the next event.
Right. I like it. Anything, Willie? No.
This might be a guy I want to work with.
Willie, hey, I feel like we came into the year with so many options.
Right.
But I feel like it's just being whittled down to these handful.
So does that mean that we have to have more options, or does that mean that you and I have to get better to give him something to be more creative with?
No, I think this is a Willie H problem.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with us.
Okay. Lord have mercy.
All right, rule 2. How many rules do we have? Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, let's get to them.
Let's go.
All right. So rule 2. Offer flexibility and work-life balance. Now, people have different variations of this term, work-life balance.
Right.
I have it written here, but the reality of it is, I don't think I ever stopped working.
Right.
And I don't say that as like the hustle and grind movement.
Right.
I say that as I'm not, if it's 7:00,
right,
and you know, I've had dinner or whatever, and something pops in my head
right,
that I need to work on, or something I was supposed to get to that I didn't, or, you know, whatever. An email comes in that I glance at and I think requires attention. Some people will debate this. I don't go, oh, you know what? It's after my hard and fast line and I've decided I will not do anything past, you know, 6:00. Because I think the idea of trying to create work-life balance is potentially, in effect, its own problem.
Yeah. First of all,
does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
And I'll say 2 things. The first thing is what you just said about 7:00. Your level of investment in the outcome changes how much you're willing to invest in it with your own time and energy. So that's going to be at a different scale for the owner versus somebody who's on the team.
Sure.
The other thing, though, is I think we misconstrue work-life balance as it's supposed to be some level of equality as to when we're at work.
I have 20 hours of play and I have 45 hours, right.
And I think the reality of effective work-life balance is being where you are in it. So if you're working, then focus on the work and do the work so that when you're in your life, you can consciously make the decision to be focused on your life. What happens is often we get frustrated because they bleed into each other.
Right. And
we do things to contribute to that instead of saying, okay, I'm going to work on this. And this is some of the time blocking and the time, time stamping that you work for 2 hours, you do this for 2 hours or an hour. And that's one way to really navigate through it. But I think we misconstrue this work-life balance is that there has to be equal parts of each, right? And that's not true. What's true is you want to be wholly invested in whatever you're in at the time that you're in it.
Yeah, no. Yes. You've got like interview talk where you just stop. Like,
yeah. Well, does that make sense?
Yes.
And turn it back over to you.
Does that make sense? Right. I'll turn it back over.
Back to you, Cory.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. As usual, right? That's why you are the voice of reason. And, also in that flexibility and the point you're making, like there's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah.
Now that could be hybrid models that people are talking about,
right?
Flex schedule. I mean, people have experimented with unlimited time off and those, and some of these things are controversial. There is the return to work movement,
right?
I think as long as you're creating policy procedures that are not purely emotional.
Right.
So, Amazon wants people back to work. I understand you would prefer to be at your home office. I get it. But I think there's something there.
Right.
Data wise, or something that they're looking at that's beyond the emotional state.
Correct.
I was doing a workshop, and during a break, a guy comes up to me and he says, I think I'm going to cancel this particular service that he had. And I said, okay, why? He said, I don't know. I just don't feel like it's working for me.
Okay.
I said, well, there's the problem. You don't feel like it's working for you.
Right.
What's the data tell us?
Right.
I understand you're emotional. So I said, so this is an emotional decision. So I actually really hadn't thought about it like that, but maybe I guess.
Yeah.
Because we haven't looked at any data. We haven't looked at conversion or any metrics that would match any decision-making metrics applicable to that decision.
Right.
Had not looked at. So I think if your decisions are driven purely by opinion,
right,
there's probably some opportunity there.
Right.
I feel like my people aren't working when they're at home. That's different than they're not working. Or productivity is gone all for that type of thing.
Right.
So,
well, and it's such a, work from home, remote, hybrid.
Yeah.
They all mean different things to different people.
Sure.
And different roles allow for different opportunities.
Right.
So, like you talk about, figure out what's going to be the most effective for your organization and for the people in your organization, and find a way to do it as best you can.
Yeah. Also, this is idea of looking for ways to support mental health.
Yes.
Right. So wellness programs, mental health days,
right,
resources for that. So, you have a lot of your HR companies that are now getting into that space or offering benefits. Some of these things you can offer for very, cheap. I was having this conversation with a client years ago, and I said, you've got all this stuff, commissions, this, that, and the other, and that's great. Said, there's a Crunch Fitness across the street.
Right.
And it probably costs you could probably negotiate maybe $15 a month. Like, you know what I mean? Maybe it's $14, $15 a month.
Right.
Why not offer that as part of your benefits package? Because you've got employees who are going there now.
Right.
And maybe paying more or whatever than you can get as the group rate. So you've got some options, whether, create a group umbrella and reduce their cost, or offer it as a complement as part of your wellness program.
Right.
Because the same reason why insurance companies push it. If you got guys going to the gym and working out, and guys, gals, the whole thing, going to work out, then, the opportunity for them to injure, be out sick, all those other cascading effects could be avoided for $15 a month.
Right.
Right. So less than $200 a year.
To your point, and this is on a different scale, but to your point, I work for a technology company. We were doing online sales.
Yeah.
And we had a team that we all worked the same schedule because it was in person. This was, a long time ago. But around the corner was one of the premier fitness clubs in the area.
Yep.
And they had a basketball court. And during our lunch break, we had 12 people, and 8 to 10 of us would go play hoops for lunch.
Right.
And that was a way to release some tension, get people moving, reset, engage with each other, run our mouths like guys do in sports and women do in sports. You get into sports, you like to run your mouth and talk junk.
Right.
And then you come back to work and you're refreshed, you're healthier. And that was part of the benefit, though, that they offered for being an employee at this organization.
Right.
Does it have to be at that scale? No, but what are some things that you can offer to contribute to movement and activity? Because we know those things contribute to physical health as well as mental health.
And listen, this is working within your means.
Correct.
So, you got 1,000 employees. Well, if you got 1,000 employees, you probably should still have $15 an employee to do something with your budget correctly. But this is about, scaling in a way that makes sense, that's within your capabilities to support that. So, but it's also about paying attention. Now, if you're, X Capital, billions, you can have a Wendy Rhodes in-house. You can have an in-house psychology performance person,
100%.
right? When you're dealing with that level of talent and dollars, right?
Right.
So you scale based on what your capabilities are, but something with the proper intention can be greater than nothing.
Right. And not everybody's going to participate, but you want to make it available to as many people as possible.
100%. Also, use tools and policies that make sure that this idea that you're trying to accomplish about health, wellness, work-life balance, flexibility isn't just a buzzword.
Right.
It becomes actually something. Because that's the other thing. You're playing the check the box game.
Right.
So unlimited PTO until people start using it. And
right.
It's like, we didn't really mean, I invited you to my house, Lon. I didn't really intend for you to come to my house.
Right, exactly. I didn't mean
it's
for you
just
to do
something
it.
people say. Right. We should get together.
Right.
Oh, how's next Tuesday? Oh, let me get back to you.
I think I'm giving a talk in Texas.
Yeah. Is that my pager?
Right.
All right. Next up, false and transparent communication. Sharing company goals, updates, challenges, openly with employees. Encourage two-way communication by actively listening to employee feedback, and finally using regular check-ins. Town halls if you're larger.
Right.
And you can have you can have a 3-person town hall.
Right.
So, really just talking about what's going on. Particularly if there's pivots going on, we want to, keep everybody, because all too often, particularly small business owners, right, they're carrying it all and kind of, trying to appear perfect.
Right.
That they have it all together. They don't want, employees to think it's not perfect.
Right.
When many times you can, not only get some great ideas, but you also create greater endearment by having that, having those conversations and
have that level of engagement, and also along with that, establish some standards for communication and engagement. Establish some, you want to call it respectful standards or recognizing standards,
right?
But establish a way to communicate with each other so that you're not attacking each other with all the things that are wrong, but ways that you can improve the organization. And I call it guidance, right? Here's what we want to be. How about some ways that we can do that? Give us some ideas to do that.
Right. No, I like that there. Recognize and reward contributions next
100%,
up.
yeah.
Right. Recognition programs, things that celebrate achievements, big and small. This can be monetary.
Right.
Right. A gift card can go a long way.
Right.
This can also be non-monetary. So just even public announcements, or making it public or sharing it.
Right.
Extra PTO.
Yeah.
Hey, you crushed it yesterday. Roll out at noon today.
Right.
Just different
or bank
little,
a day
little,
for
little,
when you want to
nuances. Yeah.
Go to your
go surprise your kids, or whatever.
Or
orchestra. Don't go home early and find a surprise. I don't know. Sometimes this could go other.
Well,
stuff happens.
It does.
I didn't get that many whoopings as a kid because they were so traumatic when I did get them.
Right.
But I remember being grounded one time. See, I'm making a lighthearted one. So you went somewhere else when I said that, but but I remember being grounded one time, and my mother didn't come home until about 5:30.
Right.
So why would she be home at 3:30?
Right.
It was a great opportunity for me to get off the bus, go for a quick bike ride, even though I was grounded.
Yeah. Okay.
And lo and behold, I'm pulling back up to the house almost scot-free.
Right.
On the bike, here comes my mother pulling up. We lived in an apartment complex, so it wasn't like I could duck around the garage. The apartment was here. The parking space was in front of the apartment, first floor. So I'm riding up. She's pulling in. Turns out she had gotten off work early, went to Kids R Us, got me some clothes, a couple other things, and here I come riding the bike.
Right.
Let's just say I didn't have that problem again.
You learned.
Shout out to my mother.
Absolutely.
And more importantly, that leather belt with the brass little pinholes in them.
God have mercy.
Yeah, you're right. Lord have mercy. Well, Child Protective Services was a thing back then. Oh, if I knew the number, I would have called that day. Okay. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I think get creative, right? And this is where the better you know your people, the better you know the people on your team, the better you know the people in your organization, the more personalized you're going to be able to reward and give credit.
Yeah.
And so if somebody has a child in daycare and they, it's a struggle for them.
Right.
And you want to recognize their good work.
Yeah.
Give them a day and say, look, choose a day. Just tell me ahead of time. Choose a day and go take your child out of daycare and go spend time with them, or take the half the day off, or, but understanding what's valuable to them.
Sure.
And
that's a big one right there. Yeah. Is it's personalizing the reward to align with the individual preferences and interests.
Well said.
So, years ago, we put a rewards program inside one of our clients. They're a very large client, And what it allowed to do is, the incentive could be then redeemed for what mattered to you.
Yes.
Right. And the company had, 50 options
right.
on what that could be. If you care more about experiences, get movie tickets.
Right.
If you care more about, you need a pair of sneakers, use the Nike, use it for an incentive there. Yeah. But automating it, creating a process where you can do it at scale and not, you didn't need, Jackie running out to the Walgreens to get a, grocery store card and saying, here, pick which one you want. It was more of a program that was easy to kind of implement and accelerate.
And that's, you talk about scale, right? Depending on the size of your organization, maybe you just have a stack of gift cards. And if you're a smaller organization, maybe you have a stack of $50 or $100 gift cards. And some of them are gas, and some of them are groceries, and some of them are something else. And let the people pick, and then you replace the one that they got.
Right, exactly. So a lot of options there. Step one is make it part of your process.
Yes.
Right, make it something you're going to do, then go through the steps to execute how to do it.
Right.
And that's kind of step one. All right, 5, invest in employee development.
Yes.
Training, development services. Create a clear career progression. So if you're in that situation where you can offer opportunities for growth in that way, it certainly creates a future focus. I think that's a great mistake when we talk about the Gen Z crowd and, them not feeling like there's anywhere for them to go. So then they just hop to the next thing.
Right.
I mean, that's a whole show on its own, but
yeah.
But needless to say, as an overarching thing, it's this idea of employee development. I can tell you for sure, anyone who's ever been part of my organization in their orbit knows more when they leave than they did when they came in.
Sure.
Because that's just the nature of having to learn.
Right.
So one person came in, we had a person who thought they were coming in to just do website development and some creative stuff. And they ended up needing to be the video they needed to figure out video editing. They needed to figure out shooting the videos. They needed to figure out building pop-ups and offline graphics and online graphics. And they grew. I mean, it wasn't just me saying, oh, I want to try to get as much fun, but they grew their skill set, and which also increased their value.
Right.
So it took me 2-3 people to replace one person.
Right.
So.
Well, and we go back to talking about making people feel valuable.
Yeah.
When you invest in them and you invest in their development and you invest in their future, you make them feel like they matter to you and to your organization because you're contributing to their growth.
Right. So the next one is about culture, a culture of belonging. So I think this is interesting because this opens up a lot of different conversations, because this is when you get into elements like DEI, which is very controversial right now in terms of diversity factors, inclusion, things like safe spaces, celebrating differences. So I'm going to tell you, so I will say, I'm saying it because I think it's a conversation that needs to be had.
Right.
But it's about the pendulum.
Yes.
I think that's going to be my next book. It's about the pendulum. Because too many people are far left, in my opinion, people get too far left or too far right. And I'm not saying in political terms, but just in terms of being so far over this direction or that direction, where it's whether complete chaos, do whatever you want. Everyone's protected. Everyone needs to feel great. Everyone, we don't want any static or friction of any kind because we want everybody to feel great. But there's a lot of people who take advantage of that.
Yes.
And there's a lot of just things where you have to, 4 or 5 years ago, I couldn't talk about parenting because I didn't have any children until the stork dropped an 18-year-old off at my house. So now 5 years in, I have a perspective on, so maybe I can't talk about adolescent parenting or raising a baby, but I certainly can talk about parenting a child.
Sure.
And my perspective on that being different. And there are just certain things, I don't care what the times are, get with the times. I don't care what's modern. There are certain things that are not going to happen on my watch.
Okay.
Not today, Satan.
Right.
So, so my point being, you can, if you don't like the term safe space, you don't like that. The idea though is people, you need to have a scenario where people can share their values or their issues or whatever that is.
Right.
Right. If you don't like the term safe space, I'm not really that fond of it myself, just like rolling it off the tongue.
Right.
But that doesn't mean I'm against people being able to feel like they can talk to me or be able to raise an issue or raise a concern. Right. I think that's important from a cultural standpoint. So it's not and I've talked about this here with my team.
Right.
This idea, like, I'm always going through, Willie H. be shaking his head in a minute, but like, I'll say something and it's said for the effect of having a conversation.
Right.
But they take it as the order of the day.
Right. Okay.
And I'm like, no. It's like, all right, we'll do whatever, whatever you want.
It becomes a direction instead of a conversation.
Willie H's favorite word. You the boss. That's his favorite thing. I like to choke him. The views expressed on the Grow Business Podcast are not those. But it's like, I'm trying to have a conversation. I'm not, don't take that as the order of the day, right? So I think, but now there are some people that's just my word is law and I don't really care what your opinion is about anything. Right. And I think that's bad for business long term in the context of employee engagement and culture.
Well, it's certainly bad for continuity.
Yeah.
If you're telling people what to do all the time, they're gonna choose to leave.
Right.
And I think, Cory, what you just talked about is, safe space, open lines of communication, whatever. Right. You want people to feel like they have the ability to have conversations about things that are important to them.
Yep.
You don't want to dictate those conversations, but you want to establish standards of engagement.
Right.
You want to say, here's how we have these conversations so that nobody feels attacked, so that nobody feels like they're always in the wrong or they're always doing something wrong. So you want to open the communication with standards of expectation and behavior of how you have that conversation.
Maybe 100%. This guy can help me.
Yeah, I love it. So, and there's different ways to go when we talk about engagement, right? So that just ultimately how you bring people together. Technology can play a factor in that, right? So you can have, I talked about how we did the incentive program. You can have employee recognition apps. You can have, Slack and do different things with Slack. Create channels that aren't just about business or accounts or whatever. If you're really, if you like Microsoft, Microsoft Teams, just in terms of how you facilitate get-togethers.
Right.
That are designed to matter, not check the box.
Right.
Not because HR came up with some HR-y way to do something, but to have a real impact, based around the things that people enjoy or maybe want to engage in.
100%.
Gamification.
Yep.
Data. Like these are different types of things. And, we talked about those pros. Let's think about some things, what might be some mistakes, right?
Okay.
So relying solely on salary.
Yes.
As a way to address culture.
Right.
Everybody's miserable, but we're going to bump them 50 cents an hour.
So we're going to give them a raise, right?
Right.
Make them less miserable.
Ignoring feedback or failing to act, right? So, it's one person says something, is it a complaint? 20 people say something, maybe it's an issue. Right. That's worth addressing that maybe, you hope won't cost you opportunities long term.
Right. Yeah, I always love this example. You remember the movie Training Day with
of course, I just rewatched it a few days ago. About a week ago.
What's the guy, not C. Thomas Howell, what's the guy's name that's
Ethan Hawke?
Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
So Ethan Hawke gets in the car. He gets in the car on the first day.
Yeah.
And Denzel says to him, he says, if you wake up in the morning and the first person you run into is an a-hole,
right?
Well, that person's an a-hole. If everybody you run into that day is an a-hole, then you're the a-hole.
Yeah, it's you.
And so that's it's that kind of conversation is right. If it's one person, well, it's one thing. If it's 20 people, there's some consistency that you might want to consider.
That's right. And that's something you've got to be honest about your culture, right? And you can't treat the idea of engagement as a one-time event.
Right.
Or a one-time initiative.
Right.
It's a mindset and an ongoing issue that has an ongoing effort.
Well, think of it in terms of developing.
Yes.
Over time.
That's right. So And you can do that through surveys. You can do that. I mean, there's a lot of, we've talked about some different things,
right.
You know, that are out there that, you know, Culture Booster, shout out to Steven, who's got a great tool for engagement and, you know, at scale, those types of things. Culturebooster.com, I think it is. Check out his tool. But celebrate these milestones, work anniversaries, team achievements. You know, these things matter in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
So if you're of size and you're in a situation where you've got departments, how can you collect? We don't want the Hatfields versus the McCoys, right? How do we break down those silos and build connection? Because ultimately, building a culture that keeps employees motivated and productive isn't about fancy perks. It's about genuinely valuing your people.
Yes. And I'm going to add to this because this is something that I think is overlooked so often. And I talk about this when I talk to sales leaders. You know, we focus on engagement. We focus so much on things that don't involve work. We focus on socializing. We focus on contributing to nonprofits, contributing to charities, doing community events. One of the things that I talk to sales leaders about is create an environment where the people on your team can practice the work that they do together in a safe space. We talked about sports teams earlier. You know, sports teams practice and run plays together before they ever play in a game. What it allows them to do is learn how each other works, learn what each other's contributions and skill sets are, and it gets them, one, to have a better understanding of how to work together. The other thing it does for them is it gets them more invested in each other's success, which invests everybody in the success of the overall organization. And it's something that we overlook because we're so focused on non-work related activities that sometimes the best thing you can do is create an environment where people can understand each other better at work.
And you spend all that time together anyway. You know, it's amazing to me, and we're going to get out of here, but it's amazing to me, like when I think back to some work relationships, people that you were so tight with, and in the moment you don't work together, these relationships fade, and you really see now the ones that stand the test of time, you know, there's people I still talk to that I worked with 25 years ago,
Same.
And we still communicate. They have kids now. I've seen their kids grow up, these types of things, but by and large, there were people that I'm like, man, I was laughing and having a good time with this guy every day. And I don't know if he's dead or alive now. I don't know if that's partially my responsibility. I mean, I will tell you, I'm typically more vested. It's probably one of my gifts and one of my, you know, shortcomings overall for me, you know, how it affects me personally. But I'm probably generally the one more invested. In a lot of different ways. So like in those so when I think back at those people, I'm like mad. like, dude, I spent all this time. I was at your house. I was with your kids. Like all these things. And then now, because we don't work together anymore, you can't call nobody. I mean, it's like that. Or like the relationship really wasn't a relationship. It was, you know, just the glue was the job. You know, versus those people 20 years later that, you know, I vacation with and like, so, but all that is, you know, that same idea at the person to person level is to me also the same concept of culture and creating that level. Are there people, not everybody has a perfect interpretation, but I'd like to think historically over 20 years that there's a number of people that I could call up that, you know, worked for me at some point that enjoyed the experience.
Oh, which one would take the call,
You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and I think that's also an extension. I don't know. I've talked about this before. I keep a voicemail. Like people think I'm making it up when I say it, but I keep a voicemail. You can see it right. I'm showing it to you right there. What's the date on that?
Oh yeah, the 2013
from this guy here who worked for me. I keep this voicemail because, and this guy was 25 years my senior. And on this voicemail, he had got a new opportunity and we knew he was transitioning and we helped him kind of get the opportunity directly. So basically he got hired by a client or via a client of ours. He got hired and he points out that, you know, in this voicemail I keep that working for me and the organization during that time, he had never worked. Obviously he'd been around the block already, but he had never worked for anybody that put that much care into how they engaged or worked with their employees. And this was a guy who was not in the office every day. This was a field team.
Right.
So it's not like we saw him or, had free snacks and he just loved the fact that we got his favorite yogurt.
Right.
But so I just always carry it around because it's just a great reminder of
100%.
of that and the impact you can have on somebody. And if there was something in alignment with what I needed or a meeting or something, this guy's going to answer it's going to take my call forever.
Right.
Just because he remembers it.
Correct.
And maybe has feels an obligation to just how he was treated in a small period of time. Not 10 years we loved on him, 6 months.
Right.
But we did more than 6 months. We knew his kids' names. We knew their birthdays. We reached out. We asked about his wife. Those little things are so small things to do, huge things from a result standpoint.
Well, and
I'll give you the last word.
Say amen.
Bringing it all back together, we're talking about employee engagement. And the most effective employee engagement is because you care about the employee and you care about things that they care about. And you give them the opportunity to feel that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's really what it is.
100%. Well, we hope that, well, no, we're done.
Yeah, it's good. No, it's good. This is a good one.
We're done.
Right.
But as always, we hope you've got some practical tools here. We say it, we try to say it every episode and remind everybody, we're not here to be gurus.
Right.
We're practitioners. We're in the daily of it. And I think that's important. We want to share some things that we can collectively curate, some things that are working inside our organizations as well, as, just best information and deliver it in our way. So we appreciate you coming back. If you like our way, you keep coming back, you share it with friends. Yeah. Some people, maybe like something less interesting. I don't know. As my mother says, to each his own. Right. So we're glad to have you. We're glad to have you. We're glad to have you and want you to keep coming back and keep streaming us on your favorite streamer.
Yes.
We're there. We're everywhere.
Right.
Apple, Spotify, Google Play.
We are on the interweb.
We're on the interwebs. Watch the video edition on Spotify and YouTube as well. Or check out CoryMosley.com. And don't forget to get your copy of Position for Growth. But that's it. We're wrapped. This has been another episode of the Grow Business Podcast. On behalf of myself, Cory Mosley, LG007 Lon Graham, and Willie H., we'll see you next time. Willie H., take us out.
You talk about extremes, polarized extremes.
Yeah.
That's where the attention lives. Reality lives in between.
Right.
You've got 100% to one side, 100% to the other, and reality lives in that 40 to 40.
Yeah, well, it should.
Well,
because people's reality, though, right? So it's, I believe this and that, and no matter what you say, it's not up for conversation.
Right.
That's the greatest shame.
Yes.
Someone told me a long time ago, right? The mind is like an umbrella; it works better when it's open.
That's good. That's good.
So,
full props for that one.
Yeah, that's the story. So all those nuggets, but
and one of the best things that we can do for ourselves to contribute to the engagement of the people that we work with is to continue to evolve our perspective and increase our perspective, because the more we understand. What's that?
Grow or die.
100%. Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you. Same.
Wow.
Same. All right.